to it. This one is essentially just like
To pick it up off the ground.
Okay, let's go ahead. Do something with that laptop. All right, like a quick review of maturity level, because that's way we're doing this is to watch what the assembly's gone through. So 1 through 3, initial awareness, experimentation, systematic adoption, integrated management, we're moving across functions, and then transformational excellence, the companies that have gone the extra mile in that situation. All right. Always fun to pick on Amazon. What we're going to do, we're going to do Amazon, Citigroup, and then I'm going to throw a ringer at you guys. You can decide on how you guys want to advise Chris Roberts, our president here at Auburn University. Okay, Amazon, how'd they start?
bookstore, online.
Online bookstore, okay. And you got to give Bezos credit. He was told he was an idiot and it would never work. Okay. All right, that's 1990s up to early 2000s. What did they do with the online bookstore? What was their claim to fame? In other words, what was their advantage?
Didn't they have digital books as well?
Digital books.
Later.
Absolutely. I mean, think of Blockbuster.
The Kindle.
I mean, Amazon really changed the map. Okay, digital delivery versus hard copy. Okay. Then, what was their next? By the way, this is strokes of genius here. We're all looking back on it going, well, of course. This guy's looking forward. Okay, what's the next thing? Digital books.
Was it audiobooks?
Yeah, but that came a little bit later. But that's a good idea because I could digitize voice too.
You sold worldwide?
How? You go global with the internet, no question about it. So when B2C, business and consumer, first came in and all of us started having access to the internet, Jeff got in there just right. Okay, now, the next thing was, guys, recommendation engine. Nothing more than predictive analytics. And they had limited data, put it in there anyway, which was, I had not thought about this. This is strictly initial awareness stuff. Okay, let's experiment with, based on your past purchase, you might also like, and all of us, that's in our DNA today. It wasn't back then. So they didn't govern it very tightly, and it was just clever, great idea. You know what? They embedded it in the site based on the customer interface. That came out of their marketing group. Okay, not logistics, not fulfillment. Okay. Now, do you guys remember the Mechanical Turk? Piece rate for doing jobs. Okay, little tiny things like analyzing sentiment and recommendations and reviews and all that, and you'd get paid a few pennies for each one that you did. Okay, and then they'd put all those together. That was one of their very early human-in-the-loop systems. Naturally, we took care of that and it moved away. So they experimented with recommendation logic, exploratory analytics. That's great. Prediction. All right, they go to experimentation. Well, now they're in an interesting situation. That stuff surprised them all, and so they decided they better start doing pilots. Then they moved into A/B testing. Now, that gets to be, y'all know what that is? What's A/B testing? A/B testing. All right, I get two groups. I have a control group that I'm making recommendations to, and another group that I'm not. Okay, that's A/B. And I just compare hit rates, purchase rates. Okay. That's a very interesting experiment across many applications. And then they started with the Amazon flywheel. I had not thought it would come up this early in level 2, but their leadership started to see machine learning in one part of the business feeding innovations in the other parts. Okay, so you're going from customers to hits to purchases to distribution. Then they got into their fulfillment centers because what they sell after books?
Consumer goods.
everything. Okay? Now that, not digital. Who in the world would have thought to go to physical products? So you're sitting there and you're Jeff and you're thinking, okay, I'm doing well in digital books. Why don't we just be a retailer, period? Who are you going up against?
Everyone.
Walmart. For brick and mortar
Everybody,
stores.
but you're going after Walmart because Sam Walton started in 1950. Bezos is 40 years later. You want to go after Walmart and Sears, any of the big and all the big box bookstores? Now think about that. High risk. Looks like good thinking now, doesn't it? Being as Jeff's on his $500 million yacht today. So, things are going well. But who would have thought that? But you guys that started Starbucks, how many coffee shops were in Seattle when Howard, was it Schultz, started? A bunch. It's the coffee capital of the world. Why? Because it rains all the time. There's nothing to do there. Just kidding. But they have nothing but coffee shops. Long winters and a lot of rain. I mean, come on, now, guys. Y'all know what Seattle's like. You been to Seattle?
No, but I'm going in November.
Yeah. You don't go to Seattle without a parka. How could you think of putting a coffee shop in there? Okay, so then they had emergence of their machine learning groups. They started putting in infrastructure, which was kind of interesting. Their core machine learning group was founded. The purpose was not to set up neural networks. It was to do what? Share machine learning capabilities, to feed the flywheel. Okay. By the way, we haven't even gotten to data scientists yet. They had some analytics people. This is all business professional stuff. Okay. Then they did, data pipelines they were concerned with, shared tooling across the company, and of course, pilots. Now, what got interesting here, once you start getting into large volume, you got to do demand forecasting, okay, and inventory prediction, because I've moved into physical products. Okay, by the way, if you're in physical products, what do you have to build?
Warehouses.
Big warehouses, okay, which rapidly became fulfillment centers. Okay, that's level 2. Level 3, they want to put it in machine learning across everything to operations, but here's where they started really getting worried about governance. Okay, that you've got to, somewhere along the line, somebody in the executive branch is going to have to put in there, how are we going to govern this stuff? And that goes directly into what do you do with pilots? Okay, you put them into production. Okay, so I've got a pilot in machine learning going in. I want to put that in production. What am I into now? Change management. Now you got to deal with people. By the way, who puts a pilot into production? You're the IT guy. Okay, you're one of the IT folks, and they come to you and say, "Well, they got a machine learning pilot here. It needs to go into the production." And they say, "Well, I don't know anything about machine learning." You better bring a data scientist on board pretty quickly, and he or she's going to have to start interfacing with IT, who's been around for 10 years already. They started using predictive models for demand forecasting, replenishment, inventory placement, all logistics. Everybody knows reduced cost, quicker delivery. Fulfillment centers, systematic adoption. What they do in their fulfillment centers, their big warehouses. What'd they go to? They bought Kiva systems. Y'all saw the bots up here earlier in the semester. Those little guys floating around the floor. Okay, they go to Amazon Robotics. They bought Kiva in 2012. Robots immediately became core operations. Now, that worked out astoundingly well because they pulled all their people off the floor except for the ones they need to do the hand placement. And then what? Amazon Cloud. Bezos had the Christmas fiasco. I don't know if y'all read those stories. You did in my class. One Christmas, they had so many orders per second that their servers melted down. And everybody started getting that. Remember the old hourglass? You You get the hourglass doing this, and then your order would get dropped, or you'd get the wrong thing, or it would show up December 29th, or it was a fiasco. So Bezos said, what do you want to do? And he sat there and watched it as engineers. What I hear, that was an interesting meeting. We have screwed up. What do we do? And they said, well, we're going to have to build out our infrastructure. By the way, every company out there, even Auburn University, builds to peak loads. Okay, your basic, what we call baseline or base model IT infrastructure has to handle peak loads. What are our peak loads here?
Registration.
Registration, sure, graduation. And don't forget your fee
Parking
payment.
opens.
Huh?
When parking opens, the website.
It's a crash.
Parking? Well, every time I ask students, what's the biggest need here? All of you scream, parking. It's absolutely wrong. Thank you very much. It's classrooms. We don't have enough classrooms. Okay, but yes, parking is a problem. There's a simple way to solve that problem, by the way. Back in the day, freshmen couldn't bring cars on campus. I find that a great idea. No one else does except the faculty and the staff. Okay, so they put this in. Bezos says, we're going to build out all these servers, okay? Now, let's assume next Christmas that this is Jeff talking, that we built all these servers up, new data centers. Our peak load is Thanksgiving, Black Friday, through Christmas. Then things will die down. Then we'll have the returns. That'll be the next peak load. Then everything's going to go dark. What do? Do we turn the servers off? No, think about this now. As far as all those people in that room were, they'll go dark. Reduce our electricity usage and so forth. And Jeff goes, if that's what you're thinking, explain to me how fast computers depreciate.
Every 2 years, you have to update your computer.
It's a boat anchor after a couple of years. I mean, just put it on your bass boat and tie a little line around it. So, I mean, think about this. Those guys were thinking, okay, we're going to save money on electricity. Jeff's thinking, while you're doing that, we're all losing money. Those servers are worth nothing. Who do you think came up with the idea to rent them out? He did. Rent them out to companies, rent them out to people, rent them out to anybody. There's web services, which is 25 to 30% of their profits today. Okay. Now, I've got Amazon Web Services. It goes there about this time. What do they do with their machine learning knowledge that they're gaining?
Selling that data.
Yeah, they farmed it out over the web, the cloud computing, so you can use Amazon Web Services. You don't have to develop machine learning yourself. You rent their algorithms and their servers. Okay, so then they went to governance naturally. They do have what's called Amazon SageMaker. That came in 2017. It's a machine learning platform to bring consistency, scalability, and governance to machine learning workflows, which they rent to. Okay, it's no problem for any of us to get access to Amazon SageMaker. This is some really good stuff. Then they built Recognition with a K for vision and a lot of other stuff. So that's their level 3. Level 4, integrated management. They wanted to go end-to-end across business units, mature governance, accountability, continuous optimization, cross-unit integration, everything you would expect for the flywheel. Okay, let's see, customer touch points. Their press material started emphasizing machine learning. I think probably everybody in here is an Amazon Prime. And then with level 4, they started thinking about generative AI to enhance product descriptions, recommendations, and advertising. That's continued. And then, of course, they're sticking with government's accountability and ethics, which is great. Now, notice level 5, which they have gotten there because they were already mature, and now they're a differentiator. New business models, dynamic adaptation. You've seen the investment in their robotics. They've started doing a very interesting thing with logistics. They're anticipating demand forecasting, so they pre-position goods closer to where the demand's going to be. Now, that goes along with UPS trying to predict packages on trucks because they don't know all the data that's coming in overnight over the packages. How would you like to be Amazon with all these gigantic warehouses and you're going to go ahead and move stuff? Well, they own a trucking company. They own their own Air Force now. They have their own airline. They're really big into drones for last mile delivery. So that's what they're looking at as machine learning as a strategic asset. Now, they've launched Nova, which is their foundation model. We'll come back to that. Generative AI. Pretty much the robotic stuff, the flywheel's established, and they have basically set the bar for everybody else to follow them along. So they've transformed. This is what they came through. Now, a few things you have to realize. These phases are not distinct. Okay, you're going to get in your organization, you're going to discover you may be doing some initial awareness and some experimentation and so forth. Those are not clean divisions. They had to solve their own internal problems before they moved to external, level 3. So that's a great case. But then let's try Citigroup. Amazon's in the digital space and the physical space. Citigroup's in which one? They're a gigantic bank. What are they doing?
Mostly digital.
Mostly digital, sure. Level 1 was, not too many years ago, I suspect within the last 15, they wanted to talk about the promise in finance of machine learning. No implementation yet. They produced some internal memos, white papers called AI is a Game Changer. Okay, well, that's pretty much where we all start. The projects that they thought about, the white papers disconnected from business strategy, so they decided to start experimenting. I thought this was interesting. Trade documentation and internal document summarization. Their governance constructs, data quality rules. They formed an AI working group in level 2, and they started getting a little funding, which is good. And they had measurable but small value, automating document summarization, internal knowledge retrieval. Those are legal devices. They basically took an early look at generative AI, probably pre-GPT-2, and they started putting assistance in for document search. So you can see how Citigroup's come to machine learning much later than Amazon. They went to systematic adoption because they put it into production workflows. Trade compliance processing, the internal document tools. They had to clean up their infrastructure with data lakes and monitoring. Then they got stuck in the adoption phase, level 3, with upskilling. They couldn't find people to hire. They weren't looking for computer science people. They couldn't find you guys. So now everybody's out there screaming about upskilling. And so they put in tools called City Stylus and City Assist to begin deployment of machine learning across regions to support these internal tasks. Then they began retiring their legacy systems and consolidating their infrastructure around machine learning at scale. That's a beast anytime you talk about a bank because they're heavily regulated. Integrated management, they're trying to get machine learning embedded in core operations, fraud detection, credit underwriting support, client advisors, compliance, fraud detection being fraudulent transaction for credit cards. They're coming along with governance and accountability. Cross-functional teams are coordinating. They're looking at boutique AI-powered client interfaces, generative AI for client communications, insights into wealth management. Wealth management has become kind of interesting. The more money you have, the more, shall we say, customized services you'll get in the bank. They really want to put generative AI into wealth management. The problem is wealthy people get irritated if you lose them money. And it doesn't do you any good to do this. Well, it's Rayner's fault. He's my wealth manager, but he's using generative AI. So it's he said, she said. So they've got ethical dilemmas. They have a real problem with black box. Okay, generative AI comes out of a gigantic neural network, which is black box. If you're making recommendations, wealth management or just investing, you're going to have to figure out how to explain it. They are not at transformational excellence. They are experimenting with agents, and I do mean experimenting. Agents are back in level 2, but right now they do have machine learning is fairly pervasive. Their governance is coming along. Now they are trying to get to new business models, predictive financial services, autonomous bots for clients. Look, autonomous bots are going to be what we call AI agents for clients. That means a system, a machine learning system is going to do a series of steps by itself. If you do that on the client interface, I think you better be testing that real carefully with multiple steps. But this is a digital organization. They're serious about machine learning, but they've got some work to do. Okay, the Ringer Major University. Off the top of your heads, what level of the 5 maturity levels is Auburn University?
-2.
-2. Who said that? I didn't know we could go negative on this, but why would you say that?
I just hear you complaining about it every week.
Okay. That's called influence. -2 is not real bad. So let's never mind Auburn, take MIT. Top-notch engineering school. Where do you think they are? I've got initial awareness, experimentation, systematic adoption, etc. They may be a little bit ahead of us, okay? I'm not sure. So here's the deal. If you think about initial awareness, you've got university leadership, our president, provost, the deans. They acknowledge machine learning is important for education and research. That's helpful. Now, you guys all know glaciers move faster than academia. I'm not kidding. They do have task forces on what they call AI in higher education because universities don't understand the difference between AI and machine learning. The fact that it's synonymous. So yes, we put task forces together. We have AI at AU. That's one of our big initiatives here. Cute, isn't it? By the way, what does that focus on? That's a center, AI at AU. Funded with $2 billion. What's the mission of that center? I don't expect you to know, but do y'all take a guess?
Sure.
Yeah. It is all about what the devil are we going to do with generative AI in higher education. Excellent question, but it has nothing to do. Everything we just talked about right there was blocking and tackling or generative. Some of both, but mostly blocking and tackling. There's some generative stuff in there. So now you get awareness campaigns, faculty develop workshops, seminars, and public talks. Okay? Big EO, the Big EO Center, is trying to partner up with AI at AU, at least is my understanding. By the way, I have never spoken to any of these folks or ever been contacted by them. Ever. So they're trying this, and how many faculty members show up to these development workshops?
30 or 40? 30 or 40?
Negative 40, yes, you're right. Okay, we can't go, you know. And right now it says machine learning is disconnected from the institution's core teaching, learning, and operations. Well, that's about right. There's only one core function that I can think of that's using machine learning very quietly. What is it? Admissions. I don't mean generative, I mean blocking and tackling predictive analytics. And they're very quiet about that for obvious reasons, because if Freddie gets turned down for Auburn next fall, the parents don't want to hear that the machine learning program kicked him out, or didn't admit him right away. So that's a problem. So we've got this thing going. Initial awareness is pretty much where we are. Now, MIT did a better job. Unfortunately, you remember the three big groups: business professionals, analysts, and data scientists. MIT's way over in data science and analytics. Okay, they haven't quite worked their way over to business professionals. I'm hearing some pilots out there for chatbots for admissions queries or IT help desk. We do not have that, which I think is a great idea. And then small pilots for plagiarism detection. That's not going to happen. Okay. You can argue all you want to about use of generative AI in homework and so on and so forth. Guys, we haven't even made it to experimentation yet, and people are already trying to figure out how to detect when you guys cheat, which if somebody tells you you cannot use generative AI in my class, blah, blah, blah. That's not going to work on any one of these aspects. So this is where we are. We're somewhere around level 1. And I was astounded because I decided I'd ask Claude what Claude thought about this. And Claude decided that most universities are in level 2, piloting chatbots, drafting AI policies, and starting faculty workshops. Okay, I'll give Claude level 2. But it's still really early. So we are trying as hard as we can to march in the wrong direction. Okay, so that's where we are there. But that's where we are. Okay.
What would a level 3 look like to you?
At a university, I can tell you where the disruption is going to come. Everybody know what Conmigo is? You guys do. Anybody else? KHN, Khan Academy. Y'all are familiar with Khan Academy? The place that got you through stats and calculus and all this. Okay, 3 videos. What Saul's done is he's gone and developed an AI tutor. Okay, so rather than x plus 3 equals 7, x equals 4, Khan Academy will walk you through a video showing you how to take minus 3 from each side, and whatever. To solve the equation. What Conmigo does, it's an early AI tutor. It will not give you the answer. It will start walking you through by asking you questions. It does remember your previous interaction with it so that it can say, based on what we did last time, it looks like you're still confused over adding negative 3 to both sides, which would leave x over here, and the other side would be 7 minus 3 or 4. It'll start asking you, what do you do on both sides of an equation? Okay, you've got to isolate the variable on one side, get the answer on the other, and it'll start walking you through. AI tutors there are a lot of them, and we'll be going into this in November, but there's not a single subject that I can think of that an AI tutor can't touch with enough data. When you get an AI tutor, you have de facto created one-on-one instruction rather than one-to-many. And so students, say there's 115 of you in an intro class, which is the smallest intro class we have in this college, 115 students. You generally get the bell curve, okay? You get the ones over here are bored and the ones over here are lost, and you get the mass in the middle. It's pretty standard. Well, with Conmigo, if you decide to use that in a class like that, then everybody would move at their own pace. Okay, now, if there were time constraints, like a 14-week semester, some of these kids might have to dig in harder than the ones who are bored and they just rip right through it. But an AI tutor is going to totally disrupt higher education. Why?
You don't need a teacher.
Don't need a teacher. And I tell you what, when I ask sophomores, why are you here at Auburn? Very few of them know it's not to get a job, it's to get your first job. They don't understand the whole rationale here is to get your foot in the door on your first job. It'd be nice if we could, that's your skill set. It would be nice if you also develop some skills along the way, like you could play well with others, that you met different people when you were here and stuff, so that your skill set would enable you to move up. But after your foot's in the door, that's on you. You want to move up? Do you want to move to another company? Do you want to move laterally? You get the picture. Okay, so when I ask these students, I did this the other night when I talked to the AI club. Oh, by the way, we have an AI enthusiast club on campus. And I got a call and somebody had heard about, you mentioned about Auburn, I guess. No, just kidding. But they wanted to learn a little bit about what's going on. Had 20 students there, electrical engineering, human sciences, political science, a few from business, and we just talked about the stuff we talked about in this class, okay? But I asked them the same thing. I said, what is the key for you to what differentiates you get that first job? First, we had to go through, you're here to get your first job. They hadn't figured that out yet, which is understandable because 99% of us, when I was an undergraduate here, I would have said to get a job. Actually, the real reason for me was to get off Dad's payroll. He said 4 years, you're out. Okay, you're off the payroll. But that was the first thing. I said, what differentiates you? I swear. Okay, I'll ask you guys. What differentiates you? How do you differentiate yourselves to go get your first job? Assume you're all undergraduates. Well, the rest of them. Assume you're undergraduates.
Major and GPA.
Okay, here's major. Here's GPA. Okay, that's numbers 2 and 3. What's the first one?
Skill set? Skill set?
Skill set comes right here. You're exactly right. It's the fact that you're at a university at all. Assuming we're all looking for white collar jobs, okay? So that's your first differentiator. By the way, across the Southeastern Conference, not a lot of difference. The Ivies are the Ivies, and so on. So the university, then your major, then your GPA. These are the big differentiators. Now, where do the students focus? GPA. Right there. Now, what we have now, the majority, is what we call branded hiring, where recruiters say, well, I'm in the Southeast, I've got looking for positions in my Atlanta office, so I'm going to talk to Clemson, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee. Okay, and I'm looking for GPAs. No, I'm looking for majors. So what are you majored in? Well, I'm looking for finance. What do they think about GPAs?
I don't think they care too
Well,
much.
generally, we're generally at 3.0. Okay, that's kind of the standard, whether they'll talk to you or not. Okay, so I look at this and I say, okay, with branded hiring, you've come to Auburn, you're a supply chain major, there's 700 majors with you, by the way, and a certain number of them are graduating at any one time. The GPA of those kids in that major, the vast majority have over 3 points. Okay. So you haven't differentiated yourself much. Okay? What have we forgotten here? You're right about this, by the way. As long as we're doing branded hiring. Why do recruiters do branded hiring, by the way? Cut down their search space. Okay? All right, what's next? What else?
Experience.
Huh?
Experience.
Experience, well, okay, relevant work experience, of which it's not fair to hit undergraduates with that because very, very, very few of them have relevant work experience. So that's a consideration. If you had it like, say you went in the military first and you've got 10 cybersecurity certifications while you're working with the Air Force, and then you came back, those are very few people. Okay. What else? Now, oh, by the way, they did mention that the other night about working. I think it's great people who work while they're coming through Auburn. Not many of you do. You all know we have very low student debt here, et cetera. So the fact that you're on the wait staff at Hamilton's is great that you're doing that, but it's not really a differentiator. What is the differentiator if you're working? Percent of college education funded. Now, obviously, if you funded zero, no reason to put that down there. Your folks are taking care of you. That's fantastic. Y'all know what student debt looks like. But if you're funded 30% of your college education through various jobs, put that down there. So this is percent funded. Okay. Now, that's fine. Then I had students tell me activities, college activities. Now, to a recruiter, she's thinking to herself, well, I think it's great that you're the secretary of your fraternity and the president of your sorority, but, so I put activities over here. Somebody told me once, well, there's a thing called spades here. It's top 10 guys on campus or something. The guy said, I'm president of the SGA. And I said, you have no sense to put an umbrella up when it rains. And what difference does it make? That's honorary stuff. Okay. What percentage of this campus votes for the SGA elections? 3 or 4%. I mean, y'all are busy. Okay. So no. What's the differentiator?
Networking and internships, maybe?
Working internship. Okay. Internships come very close to work experience here. So internships. Okay. In our supply chain example, every single supply chain major has to have an internship. Okay. Now this may differentiate you from somebody in MIS who doesn't have to have an internship, but if you're up against the other supply chain majors, not so much. Okay. It's hard to tease this out because you guys haven't had this experience. The differentiator is, and y'all mentioned skill sets, it's you already have a skill set in your major. Okay. What they're looking for is some sort of unique skill set. Okay. If you can figure out something right here, and I've got 35 people out there on television right now saying, yeah, I'd like to see something on that resume that is really unique. Okay, let me tell you how people take classes here as undergraduates in the business school. The first thing is they got a major, they got those classes. Then they have electives. Okay, well, you're stuck in the major. You got very little slack. What's the very first thing you do in your major classes? You go to ratemyprofessors.com and figure out who's the toughest professor in there, and you avoid him or her at all costs. Okay, you want to go take Fred Flintstone to help you through this major class. Okay, I got that. And then you got to make sure it's 9 or 10 in the morning, because 8 o'clock classes are not really, I'm just not ready. Okay? Electives. What's the first thing you do? Go to ratemyprofessors.com and you figure out who's teaching. And by the way, you've already looked up the easiest elective by talking to your peer group. Take this class. The guy gives 95% A's. Okay? Then you do the same thing. So you have dodged your way through to do what?
Challenge
Improve
yourself.
your GPA. Okay? Then, to prove and improve your GPA, you take 9 hours every semester. How many should you be taking? 15. If you do the math, 15 into 120 is 8. 8 semesters, and you're out of here. So why is it taking you guys 5.5 years? W's are on your transcripts. They go with you. So here's a recruiter. She's looking at your stuff, and this thing is like, boy, this is a nice, thick transcript. I wonder why. Well, it just keeps going on for semester after semester. And every semester has 3 classes and a W or 2. Now, what does everybody do the next semester? You can drop up to when?
Like the last day.
The last week of the semester. So what do? You sit in the class the whole time, take the exams, put the W down there, and this is just before Thanksgiving this semester, and you take it again the next semester. And you make sure you get the same doofus you looked up on Rate My Professors. You just took the exams. Do you not think recruiters pick up on this? Sure they do. So what you don't want to do is put down like John Belushi in Animal House that you were here at Auburn 10 years to get out of here. Okay, so that's what we call a de-differentiator. So what's the differentiator here? You take the toughest damn courses you can figure out and you get busy with them. Okay, I got you 3. You're the only undergraduates that I know of, other than maybe 2 that are going to take it this spring, because they're scared to death about this and they're afraid they can't handle this. Just like that person I told you I met in high school is going to major in genetics. I said, are you going to do computational biology? I don't know what that is. I said, well, figure it out real quickly. They're looking for somebody who's gone off to some other part of the campus or done something really difficult that other people don't do, and it shows initiative and you stick to it. Those are differentiator courses. And it just is an astounding, we're not giving y'all what you need. Now, I'm not saying you would do it, but I'm saying when you guys have your orientation as freshmen, this is what we need to be hitting you with. Okay? That's the key here. So when you look at AI tutors, y'all know what the cost of education is doing. You have an increase every August. What was the last one? A couple points last month in tuition. An AI tutor, okay, so you get this going on with the people who are here. So let's look at the people who aren't here. This is not going to enter with you guys. This is going to enter with the people who can't come. All right, so here's a 50% line. This group up here can afford a higher level education. This group cannot. Obviously, I'm oversimplifying. Where the AI tutor is going to come in first, right here. Okay, what happens when they go through an AI tutor and it takes them through an entire supply chain curriculum? By the way, I've already done this. I went out I had GPT open on this screen, GPT-5, and I had Claude 4.5 on this screen last week. And I said, I want the leading AI tutors, and I want to develop a curriculum that a student can take just using those tutors that'll handle supply chain management. I said, go find 10 or 12 leading supply chain management programs, put the majors, put the required classes and the electives, and 2 hours later I had a full-blown course. Now, it had nothing to do with interpersonal skills, has nothing to do with interaction with other people because you're by yourself. But your skill set is roughly the same. So what happens if you move from branded hiring to skills-based hiring? Which we're going to go to. Google already has this on their engineering side. They start giving you artificial intelligence, machine learning exams, and as you get the questions right, they get tougher. And the pyramid just narrows until you have a certain subset of humans at the top who get interviewed. Okay, did you hear about that high school kid in California? Last spring, he had something like 4.2 in one of the leading high schools, and he got turned down by 17 out of 18 universities that he applied to. He had everything you'd expect in high school. His SAT score, he just blew it. He made a 1,600. There aren't many of those out there, guys. And he got turned down by all those schools. He couldn't figure out why. And somebody at Microsoft heard about this kid and they hired him on the spot. He graduated from high school and went to work for Microsoft the next day. Skills-based hiring. The way I understand it, his interview was, what can you do? Some blind manager gave him stuff to do and he was hired. That's skills-based hiring. What can you do? And you say, well, gosh, Kelly, that's over in problem solving and maybe programming and technical stuff. No, it isn't. How tough would it be to put a series of scenarios together? You can do this now using these large language models to present you guys with scenarios dealing with people, dealing with problems in accounting, dealing with problems in finance. There's the technical side, the people side. It's no problem putting those together. Somebody's going to do that. Where are we in higher education? We're teaching this, if there's anybody left. By the way, you're totally self-paced with an AI tutor. So when I look on this, I said, okay, here's our major university. Claude decided, now this is Claude talking about a major university at level 5. Transformational excellence. Machine learning reshapes the university model itself. Personalized AI tutors for every student. I did not prompt this, it came up with it. Fully integrated digital campus twin for decision making, in other words, enrollment, facilities, and staffing. Tenured faculty are going to love that one. New business models, AI-powered lifelong learning subscriptions, virtual campuses. What are we just talking about? Governance, agile, and proactive, balancing innovation with ethics. That's nice to have. Continuous improvement. The university learns and adapts with AI insights. What did I just say about glaciers? Okay, this is great. Good idea. But if you go there with the first 3 that we talked about, virtual campuses, digital campus twin, and AI tutors, you don't have a university. Okay, so how do we market ourselves? And by the way, this will be here in the next 3 or 4 years. Not the virtual campuses, not anything else. The AI tutors are improving at exponential rates. What do we do? Oh, and let's talk about falling birth rates too, by the way. Okay, so we're about to run into an enrollment cliff. And you guys know that. Once you've had disrupted, what are we going to do? You think we're still going to be here? Is football and basketball that important? I'm serious. I asked my sophomores that. Is it that important to have a football program, a basketball program for entertainment? And I said, I'm not against it, I'm just asking. Well, yeah. What if the university goes away? What do you do then? Okay, let's look at it this way. And I know you're thinking, man, he's been smoking fat cigarettes this morning. No, the fact is, guys, we can't sustain this business model, and you know it. This line is going to move north, not south. We'll have more people who cannot afford a higher education as time goes by. This line used to be way down here. The idea of the university was to move people from what we consider lower socioeconomic conditions to better ones. That was the original goal. So, welcome to the party. So yes, we're in the crosshairs.
Can I ask another question?
Absolutely.
So we always speak about how industry is way ahead of research. What would happen to research? Will we need research? Would industry need research moving forward, or also would that be something?
Okay, let's look at the university. Who does research here? COSAM, science and math, engineering for sure, health science, human sciences, absolutely big time. Education, because the education school, their research goes into public policy. Agriculture, absolutely. So we're left with a little bit of research in business is useful, a little bit.
Liberal arts.
Liberal arts, a little bit. I guess psychology,
Communication is
communications. Okay, that's good. I hadn't thought about that. No, really. That's my ignorance showing, because we basically siloed all of our colleges. I mean, should there be machine learning in agriculture? You would think. Those guys are going to be using drones every day. So yeah, so that's a good point. So what'll happen? Suppose that the students, I'm talking about students up here, what about the faculty? Faculty doing research here, I think they're going to have to break away from that university model. I'm not sure what kind of partnerships have to be developed to fund it. A lot of the we have a ton of research money here come from the feds, the university do research. And we do great research here. All these universities do. So that's a very good question. I think that'll have to be
Just a function of the government, I guess.
Yeah, that would be a little scary. Here's the problem. What I would have to know is what percentage of the funding that goes into all of our research scientists, no matter what college they're in, is generated by student tuition dollars. And how much from federal and state and local grants. I don't know, that's my ignorance. But that's a huge contribution we make. Excellent point. I feel better. I would worry though about quite a bit of liberal arts and business. I really would. Okay, so we talked about aligning these projects. The best thing to do with that is to actually look at it and it's great to pick on Deloitte. Love to pick on Deloitte because they're doing such a great job, and I mean that, about their machine learning. So here's what they did. They decided years ago to go from human-centric to integrated machine learning. Now, their governance people, the C-level people, have decided to do this across audit, tax, consulting, and risk advisory. So all these functional areas. So these are their 4 big divisions. And so they started with machine learning and they support their core business functions. They would not let them silo. Now it's interesting, audit's different than tax, different consulting, and certainly different from risk advisory. So what they're trying to do is develop the Amazon flywheel that advances in one area will impact the other. That's a difficult proposition there. And they've got this cloud-based audit platform. So this is called Omnia. And what they do is, they're looking at audit here, which is, they sign off on qualifications. And so they were looking for quality, efficiency, and insights. Great idea. And then they developed Intella for their tax practice. Well, they looked at audit first because it was low-hanging fruit. Then they looked at tax, same thing. And so notice this, tax data analysis and compliance, where it provides immediate value. You would expect that. And then notice they're sitting here. The tax professionals have shifted. Not in document review, they're doing advisory activities. All the document review now is digitized. And then they have strategic importance, better service, and feasibility, of course. They're applying natural language processing to tax documents, all well and good. Then they founded the AI Academy. 4 years old now. That is their upskilling initiative. And this was a great idea because they're upskilling, but the people who are acting as teachers in that program have really been innovative. They pull business professionals in here, analysts, and data scientists to get these people ramped up, usually early in their careers, somewhere in the first 5 to 8 years. And they're trying to build sustainable competitive advantage by keeping their employees. Notice it trains them. Then it's fascinating. Once you train them, it identifies machine learning talent, and then you get the collaboration going with external partners. By the way, all of their external partners and their customers are screaming for machine learning, just like our business advisory council here is in the College of Business. And so they develop new machine learning powered solutions, and they want to stay relevant long term. Great idea. Nice thinking. So they've got it across the business units. I haven't seen a lot of coordination between tax audit and risk, but they're thinking it through, and this is their consulting practice. Now, obviously, it's much less structured, but if you go out on a consulting job from Deloitte, your customer's looking for machine learning. So who's going to be sitting in on those meetings? The machine learning people in the customer group. So if you walk in there naked from Deloitte, you're not going to be in there long. You've got to have the machine learning to be able to talk to these people. So they've got AutoML, which is automated machine learning. So what they're really trying to do is ramp up to meet their customers' goals, and they've got new ventures going and that sort of thing, which is great. So they're looking at ethics naturally because they're heavily regulated. And by the way, most everybody is at least trying this because of legal implications. And they've got ROI that they have had enough time to actually look at ROI, and they got their Cortex thing here that handles multiple business units, and is strictly an analytics platform. Notice it handles auditing and risk advisory, which you would anticipate. So it's been very useful. And so that's how Deloitte has handled this integration and their strategic objectives. What you would think is that right there was really difficult. Once you get that started, it'll go a lot quicker. But getting buy-in on that is tough. Okay? Really tough. All right, see you next week. And don't go out and say Auburn University's doomed. We'll stagger along for a while.